Hi everyone, welcome again to this ASP.NET Core MVC tutorial. By now in this tutorial we are learning about the basics of web framework in general. But from this video we will start our actual learning for ASP.NET Core MVC application. The first step to understand about ASP.NET Core MVC is host builder. So first we must understand about the host builder. And to understand the host builder in a good manner, we will convert a console application into web application. So in this video you will learn how can we convert a console application into web application. So let's start. In this video we will understand how to convert console application into web application. Remember, the main motto of this video is to understand about the host builder, and for that we are converting a console application into web application. How can we set up a host builder for web application? Basically, host builder is the most important thing in a web application, and host builder is something that turns an application into web application. So we will understand lots of things about this host builder. How can we set up this host builder, and what exactly is this host builder? What is host? What default features are available in host builder? When we use a host builder in our application, then there are several features which are included automatically into the applications. We will have a look on all those features. Then these are the two most important methods which are used for the host builder: create default builder and configure web host defaults. So we will understand lots of things about these two methods. First of all, let's understand the basic nature of .NET Core application. By default, every web application is a console application in .NET Core. So when we create a web application, by default this application was a console application. You will understand the structure of this web application also here in this video, but for now just understand that every web application is a console application by default. When we add some features into that console application, then that console application turns into a web application. And now let's open the Visual Studio and let's create a basic console application in .NET Core framework. Here I am in the Visual Studio. I am using Visual Studio 2019 in this tutorial. And now we have to create a basic console application in .NET Core framework. To create a new console application into this Visual Studio 2019, we have to go to File, then choose New, and then click on this project. You can also use Ctrl Shift N from your keyboard, and this window will be available for you. Since we have to create a console application, so here on the right side you have to choose console application. Remember, we have to choose .NET Core. So here on the right side I have this template console app, and in the bracket you can see .NET Core. If you have installed .NET framework in your system, then you might see one more console application type with .NET framework, but you have to choose .NET Core. Okay, since I'm using C# programming language, so that's why I'm choosing this one, C#. If I will choose this one, then the default language will be Visual Basic, but I want to work on C# language, so I'll be using this template. Let's click on this next button. Here we have to enter the name of our console application, first console app. You can choose the location of your project, then enter the name of solution, and if you want to put the solution file and all other files into one folder, then you can choose this checkbox. So let's leave everything default and click on this create button. Here you can see we have the first console application. To open the solution explorer, we can go to the view and click on this solution explorer. Here you can see we have very basic application, and there is only one class, which is program class. Let's open this dependencies folder. In this dependencies we have frameworks. What framework is used in this application? Microsoft .NET Core .app. So in this console application we are using .NET Core framework. Let's try to run this application, and let's click on this button to run this application. So the console application is working fine. Here you can see the output hello world, and this is the only output that we have written in the main method console.writeLine hello world. So here we can say we have this console application with .NET Core framework. If I want to work with web applications in .NET Core, then I have to work on a different framework, which is ASP.NET Core. Remember, ASP.NET Core is a part of .NET Core framework. So when you install .NET Core SDK in your system, then automatically ASP.NET Core framework is also get installed in your system. And now let's learn how can we convert this console application into web application. Here are some steps to convert console application into web application. First, we have to update the SDK in CS Pros file. If you have some programming experience in .NET, then you must know that there is a CS Pros file in every project, and this CS Pros file has some details about this project. So in that CS Pros file, we have to update the SDK from .NET Core framework to Web framework. Then we have to update the output type in CS Pros file. Add new web host builder. So we have to add a new web host builder, and this web host builder will turn our console application into web application. Now to listen to the HTTP calls, we have to add a route, and we have to set the default route. Suppose I'm running the application and the domain is localhost, then port. I want to set up my application so that the HTTP request must return something on this default route. Okay, so let's do all these things one by one. I'm here back in the Visual Studio, and now to convert this console application into web application, we have to work on the CS Pros file of this application. Let's open the CS Pros file. Opening a CS Pros file in .NET Core application is very easy. If you are coming from the .NET Framework background, then you must know that to open a CS Pros file, you first have to unload the project. But here there is no need to unload the project. You simply can right click on your application and choose this button, edit project file. So this is the CS Pros file of this console application. Here you can see we have the SDK, so which is Microsoft.NET.SDK, and we have output type exe. As per the steps, we have to update this SDK. So instead of using Microsoft.NET.SDK, now we will be using the web version of this SDK. Okay, this was the first task. As a second task, we have to remove this output type from here. So let's delete this line. Now we are done with the CS Pros file, and let's save the changes. When I will press Ctrl S in this system, or you can use this button to save the changes, then you have to see some changes over here in the dependencies. So let's save the changes. Now there are some changes which are done in dependencies folder. We got new analyzers in this dependencies. Also, the frameworks has been updated. Now in the frameworks we have Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.app. Remember, to work with the web applications, we have to use ASP.NET Core. And since we have updated the SDK in the CS Pros file, now the application is using web version of this .NET Core framework. Now we have to add the host builder. Before adding a host builder into the application, let's understand what exactly is a host. A host is an object that encapsulates the resources of an application. Host is a special object which is used to encapsulate the resources of this application. Let's have a look on those resources also. Dependency injections. When you are using a host into .NET Core application, then these resources are already used in your application, like dependency injection, logging, configuration, and I-hosted service implementation. So at this point we can say when we are using .NET Core application, then these functionalities or features are being used automatically by the application. Dependency injection, logging, configuration, and I-hosted service implementation. If you are coming from the .NET Framework background, then in ASP.NET MVC5 application, we have to use some third-party tool to work on the dependency injections. Now here in .NET Core, you will see everything is inbuilt. And why is this inbuilt? Because of the host builder. So we have to include the host builder into our application to get access to these applications. Beside these features, the host builder also provides lots of things to our application. Let's understand all these things. Again, I am back into the application. Let's close the CS Pros file, and now we have to work on this program class. In the program class, we have one main method which is static void main. This is the first part of application which gets called when this application runs for the first time. This is the starting point of this application main method. Here in ASP.NET Core application, you will see that every web application also has this program class, and in the program class we have a main method, and that main method is the entry point for any type of application in .NET Core. And now let's create a new host builder method. So we will be using public static host builder interface, and let's resolve the namespace. So this host builder is available in Microsoft.extensions.hosting. let's give this method a name. We can pass the arguments of this main method, arguments args, and now we have to create a default builder over here. So host dot create default builder. Let's pass the arguments. Okay, now let's understand about this default builder. What will happen if we include this method into the application? To understand the details of this method, we have to right click on this method and choose this go to definition button. So this is a static method inside this host class. This class is also an static. Let's open this comment box of this method. Let's minimize this solution explorer and let's close this output window. Here just focus on the details of this method. This is very important for the .NET Core application. Initialize a new instance of Microsoft.extensions.logging.hostBuilder class. So when we use this method, it creates a new instance of Microsoft.extensions.hosting.hostBuilder class. These are the parameters. Returns. It returns an initialized Microsoft extensions hosting iHost builder. So remember, we need a host builder to run a web application, and this method will create the instance of this host builder class. The main point of this method is these remarks. Let's read these remarks one by one. The following default are applied to the return Microsoft extensions hosting host builder. So when this host builder is returned from this method, these defaults are applied into the application. Set the Microsoft extensions hosting iHost environments.content root path to the result of system IO directory get current directory. So basically it set the default path of your application. When you run the application, then there is some path in the file directory of your application, and to point that path for the application, this method is used. So this method is used to get the current directory path for the application. Load host I configuration from .NET prefixed environment variables. So there are some environment variables which are used in the application, and this method also reads all those variables which are starting from .NET underscore. So this is the prefix for the environment variables, and if we have any environment variables with this name .NET underscore, then the name of your variable, then this method reads about all these environments with the help of I configuration. We will understand the details of I configuration in some later video of this tutorial. For now, let's focus on these remarks. Load host Microsoft extensions configuration I configuration from supplied command line arguments. Since we are using the console application, and in the console application we have a program class and the main method. And remember, when we run this application, then we can pass some arguments in the main method. It means in the web application also we can pass some arguments, and this method is used to read those arguments which are passed from the command line tool. Load app I configuration from appsetting.json and appsettings.the environment name.json. In every application we need some configurations. For that configuration in ASP.NET Core application, we create a JSON file which is appsettings.json. All the configuration settings of this application are placed inside this appsettings.json. This method is used to read all these settings from that particular appsettings.json. We can also create our app settings based on the environment. So here we can see appsettings.the environment, suppose development or the release or hosting.json. So we can create our app settings with the name of environment also. So this method is used to read app settings also. Load app Microsoft for user secrets. So this is also used to read the user secrets. There are some configurations, these are very private and you do not want to write them into the app settings.json. So you can use them as a secret, and this method will use to read those secrets which are required for the application. Load app I configuration from environment variables. To read about the environment variables also this method is used. What is the meaning of this environment variable? Suppose you are using your application for the development purpose, then the environment will be developed. But if you are going to deploy your application on a particular server, then the environment will be release. So this method is also used to find out the environment name for the application. Remember guys, this method is one of the most important method which is used in the .NET Core application. So focus on these points very well because these are the main foundation of any ASP.NET Core web application. Load app I configuration from supplied command line arguments. We can also pass the configuration from command line tool. So this method will be used to read those configurations. Configure iLogger factory to log to the console, debug and event source output. So this method is also used to set up the default logging for us into the application. And if someone asks you what are the main features of ASP.NET Core application that we got as a default, so these are the points that you can tell them. We have the inbuilt dependency injections, we have iConfiguration to read the configuration settings, we have the logging, and at the last we have one more point, enable scope validation for the dependency injections container. So this method is also used to set up the scope for the dependency injections. What is the meaning of this scope that we will understand in some later video, but this is the most important point. And remember, when we will understand these details in upcoming videos, then you have to relate those points to this method, and once you will be able to relate those points to this method, then you will understand .NET Core application in the best manner. So we have used this create default builder method, and now we have to configure the web host defaults. So let's use one more method, configure web host defaults. Let's use the lambda expression. Now let's understand about this configure web default. What is the use of this configure web host default? To understand the details of this method, simply again right click on this method and choose go to definition. Okay, so this method is available inside this generic host builder extensions, and remember in .NET Core 3 we use generic host builder. Okay, what are the remarks? This method is used to initialize a new instance of WebHostBuilder. Since we have to work into the web application, so we need an instance of WebHostBuilder, and this is the actual method which converts the console application into web application. So let's see what details are available over here in this remarks. The following defaults are applied to this WebHostBuilder. Use Kestrel as the web server and configure it using the application's configuration provider. Adds the host filtering middleware. Adds forward header middleware if ASP.NET Core forward header enable equal to true and enable IIS integration. Focus on these three lines very well. Use Kestrel as a web server. Before learning these lines, let's understand a point. Suppose I'm using a Windows operating system or a Mac operating system, and in my operating system I have not enabled IIS server. Also, I am not using Visual Studio. Since from the previous videos of this tutorial we know that we can use command line tool to work on any phase of an application. And now suppose I have created a web application. Remember, IIS server is not enabled into the operating system right now, and we are not using Visual Studio. So it means IIS Express is not also available to us. And also to run a web application, we need a server. So this configure web host defaults method is used to configure the default server for this web application. And the name of that server is Kestrel. And this method is used to set up the Kestrel for the web application. It also adds the middleware into the application. We will understand the details of middleware in some upcoming video, and enable IIS integration. So this method is also used to enable the IIS integration for the application. So for the setup of middleware, we can either write the code over here, or for the better readability of the code, we can create a separate file and we can write our middleware over there into that new class. Let's create a new class. Right click onto the solution, go to the add and click on this class. Let's give the name of this class is as startup. Okay, there is nothing in the class right now. Let's go back to this program class, and inside this create host builder, let's call that class. So we have web builder dot use startup. This use startup is available inside Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.hosting namespace. Let's use that startup class, and we have to return this host. We can also convert this method into the arrow method. So for that, let's remove these curly braces. Let's remove this return also, and we can simply use the arrow. So now you can see we have created this arrow method to create the host builder. And now it is time to call this method into this main method. So let's remove this line, console.write line, and we have to call this create host builder method inside this main method. If we have some arguments, then we can pass directly to this method. Okay, then we have to build it using the build method, and we have to run it using the run method. At this point our program class is complete to run the web application. Now we have to make some changes in the startup class. In the startup class, first we have to create two methods. So this configure method is used as a middleware into the application. And what is the meaning of middleware? Everything which is used in the HTTP call for this application, that will be written over here. Into the configuration service, all the services which are used into this application, that we can define over here into the configuration services method. We will have a look on these methods several times during the development of .NET Core application. These methods need some arguments. So this configuration service needs iService collection. Okay, and let's resolve the namespace. So it is available inside Microsoft.extensions.dependency injections. In other form, we can say all the dependencies which are used into the application, that we can define over here into the configure service method. And here in the configure method, which is used for the HTTP applications, we can use iApplication builder. Okay, let's resolve the namespace. And if we need to get the access of the environment, since we have used this create default builder, so we can get access of the environments which is used into the application. And to get the access of the current environment, we can use WebHost environment. Let's resolve the namespace. It is available inside Microsoft.espnetcore.hosting. Now two things are remaining. First, we have to enable the routing into this application. We can enable the routing using app.use routing method, and now we have to set up the default route for this application, which is app.use endpoints. Inside this endpoint, we have to call map get method. Map get method. Let's have a look on this method also. So right click on it and go to definition. You can see this method is available inside endpoints route builder extension. So this method is available inside endpoint route builder extension class. This is a static class, and all these methods are also static. Let's have a look on the details. So here is the summary. Adds routing to this application that matches HTTP GET request for the specific pattern. So whatever pattern we will define over here in this method, that will be used to identify the GET request for this application. Let's define the pattern. Since we want to get the data on the domain itself, so we will define the pattern just like this. We do not want to write anything over here. And then as a second parameter, we have to pass context. And then context dot response dot. Now we have to generate the response. Whatever we will write into the response, that we are doing over here. Let's resolve the namespace for this write async. It is available inside Microsoft.espnetcore.http, and here we can write the output. Hello from WebGentle application, and this is an asynchronous call, so we have to write async over here and await over here. Now we are done with the application. At this point we can say that we are working on a web application. Let's run this application now. Now you can see we got the browser instance over here, and the application is running into the browser. and here is the output, hello from WebGentle application, and this was the output that we have written in the response of this HTTP request. To understand the nature of this application, let's debug this application. So I'll put some breakpoints into this application. First, we have this main method. Let's put a breakpoint over here and then go to startup, put a breakpoint in this configuration service, and then put a breakpoint over here into this configuration. Go back to the browser, and let's refresh this page again. To understand the nature of this application, I have stopped the debug mode, and then again I will run this application. So first you can see we are under this main method. Let's continue. Okay, let's go inside this method, and now we are inside this configure method. We are using routing and then the endpoints, and finally we got the output. So here is the output, hello from WebGentle application. Using this approach, you can convert any console application into web application. And remember, all the web applications in .NET Core are by default a console application. If instead of running this application from IIS Express, you will use this command line tool, then you will see the console window will also be available over here. Let's understand that also. So instead of using IIS Express, I'm using this application, and now I'm running this application with command line tool. Let's click on this button. Here you can see we go to the console window before the browser. Let's continue. We have some details in this console window also. So here you can see we have some information that this application is live on this port, localhost 56066. You can see the port is also same over here, and then we got the new request, and all the details are available on this console window. Let's close this. That is all in this video. I hope after watching this video, you will be able to convert a console application into web application. If you learned something interesting from this video, then tell me your feedback in the comment section. Commenting on this video is must. You have to tell me your feedback in the comment section. Don't forget to hit the like button of this video, share this video, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.